that describe me. I am a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, a really good aunt. I buy kids all those toys that parents will never let you have. Because what do I care if there's 1,000 Legos on your floor? I'm a caregiver. Some of you know a young man that I take care of. Now, I call myself a caregiver, but on another level, he takes care of me. Some of you know him. His name is Mickey, and he goes to Itinerus. And he is now 23 years old, a fact that his mother and I are still struggling with. And he's 23 years old. Why do I say I take care of him? Because he needs some daily living. He needs somebody in the house. He needs somebody taking care of him. But you know what? I need somebody taking care of me too. I need somebody who can love me unconditionally, who thinks I'm the most amazing thing, whose face lights up when I walk in the door. So you know what? We all have those pieces of what we need. I am a handbell ringer in a choir member because I'm a good Lutheran. We sing. We all sit in the back, which I struggle with Mickey because he likes the front. And I'm a college instructor, and so I'm teaching new teachers as they're finishing up their graduate programs or just starting out in the education field. So hopefully getting some people who have some ideas about inclusion and how do we have everybody together to the best of our ability. So what I want to know is, what words describe you? Who are you? Think of one word that describes yourself. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds, and I'm going to ask you what that word is. Everybody got one? Joseph, I'm starting with you. What's a word that describes you? Friendly. I would believe that word in a heartbeat. Abby.
Oh, me?
Yeah, a word that describes you.
I'm being creative.
Creative. Well, that's a good word. Elizabeth.
I'm a multitasker.
Oh, I like multitaskers. I didn't put that up there. I'm going to add that to my list. John.
Father.
Father. Good word. Anne.
Oh, gosh. Father.
Okay, good word. Nancy.
Musical.
Oh, musical. We just saw that. Laura.
I guess relaxed.
Okay, that's a good word. I need some more of that. Our dad, no laughing.
Enthusiast?
Oh, enthusiast. That's a good word. Pastor Margaret. Mother. Oh. Grandmother. Okay. George.
Helpful.
Helpful. Okay, that's a good one.
Educator.
Educator. Pastor Sandy.
Caring.
Caring. Okay. And last but not least,
Sarah, what are you?
I'm fine.
okay. Moving a few words. I appreciate that. Okay. Here are some words that I came up with when I was thinking about who was going to be here today. And I used some of the same words. You know, sister, funny, brother, teacher, charming, singer, child of God, sports fan, enthusiastic. Not one word up there describes something with a disability. You know what I described? These are the things that I think of when I think of the people that I work with and the people that I interact with on a daily basis. And what I'm not thinking about is their disability. Now, does that mean that I never think about disability? No. Anybody who has ever met me knows I'm quite passionate about individuals with disabilities. But what I'm passionate about is making sure that we all feel included in any way that we need so that we can be successful and we can access whatever it is that we're going to do. During the day, I'm all about accessing education. I want kids to access the general ed education to the best of their capability. Because you know what? We all need this knowledge of math and reading and numbers and science and social studies. But I'm the first to admit that most of us don't start the day off with somebody, Pastor Margaret, tell me 4 colors right now. Done. Identify what number this is. That's not where we are. This information is really good to have because it helps us function every day, and it's the reason that we can get our house in an outfit that matches because we understand colors. But you know, some days we hit that mark and sometimes we miss the mark. That's okay. We need numbers so we can read schedules and we can read menus and we can do all these incredible things that we do every day. But us. So we're going to talk today about the things that do define us and that can make us better able to access the worship space, the religious education that we all want to get, the spiritual needs that we all have. So here are my belief systems, and hopefully these are your belief systems. Everybody has needs. Sorry, we're being videotaped and I'm a mover, so she's going to have to deal with that. Everybody has needs. I have needs. Everyone has needs. Some days we need a lot, and some days we need very little. It just depends on where we are. Everybody has a gift. I am really hopeful that my congregation thinks I have musical gifts. Why am I hopeful about that? Because I sing in the choir and I play handbells. I'm really hoping they think I have a gift and not, oh, she's up there again. It's going to be a long Sunday. And everybody needs to be heard. We all have a voice and we all have things that we're really good at. Some people love to stand up front and read. Some people, it's the last thing on this earth they want to do, but they will stand at the back and hand out a bulletin. Everybody, and it has nothing to do with their disability, it has to do with the fact that we're human beings. Okay? That we're human beings, and some of us really are social and outgoing, and some of us just want to fade into the background and do anything else that we have. So I saw this quote once. Unwrap each person as a gift from God to your community. I loved that quote. I have no idea who Barb Newman is, but love this idea that we all have a gift that we just need to unwrap and find. All right, so we're going to have a brief discussion here, and I want you to talk about this. Who are the individuals in your congregation with a disability? And then, in what ways do you sense discomfort from parishioners about or from worshipers who have a disability? And then, what structures are in place to offer support? And then again, on that word idea, what words best describe your church's relationship to people with a disability? So, I'm going to tell you what I tell my graduate students. Like the commercial, this is Vegas. So anything that is said in here will stay in here. So don't worry that I'm running back to the congregation and go, you're not going to believe what Pastor Margaret said yesterday about this congregation. Because this is just to be an open conversation. So how do people in congregations feel about an individual with a disability? George had a great story today, not about a congregation, but about being out in the community and having people who didn't see him as a viable human being that I can deal with and work with rather than waiting for his caregiver to come along. So is that happening in your congregation, or are you welcomed and embraced in your congregation for whatever disability you might have or whatever need you might have? Let's not think of it as a disability. Let's think of it as a need. Pastor Sandy.
Oh, I was just going to say, the first question just really stopped me when you say, who are the individuals with a disability? Because I think of people who we would say have traditional disabilities and people who, in a spectrum, all of us are in some way disabled, and some people are maybe more culturally accepted. Oh, I'm older, I have a hard time hearing. Oh, that's okay. But this person who has autism, oh, they're a little different. And so I kept sort of getting caught in that question. I just wanted to share that.
Actually, I love that, and I can go home now. Because that's one of the things that I want to talk about is that everybody has a need, and that's why I started off with my belief system that we all have needs. We do. Some days my eyes work a little better than other days. Some days my voice works a little better than other days. But those things are hidden from people. They don't realize that I have asthma, and there are days that I am struggling to breathe because the person who's standing next to me, as I refer to it, has bathed in whatever cologne or aftershave they like, and I'm really struggling to breathe. They don't realize that, and they're just sitting there, hi, how are you? Meanwhile, I'm like, oh, please back up, please. Because that doesn't look obvious, of course, until I turn blue and start gasping. But people aren't getting that. So anything else up there that strikes a chord with you? Nancy?
Well, so, yeah, and I was born, my hand is, I don't have thumbs, my hand looks different. There are people who will not shake my hand. They're my wrist, or they're just blended all together. And that is really invalidated to me.
Yeah.
So just not even wanting to shake your hand, or thinking that you can't.
I'm going to kind of continue on Sandy's note about who are the individuals in our congregation with a disability. I think everyone in our congregation has a disability of some kind, you know, from the person who planned the church building with the beautiful steps, who now is using a walker, to myself, who has a learning disability, that nobody really knows about, to, gosh, it's all across the board, to people who, again, have some problems hearing, but that's a little different from people who are deaf, you know, and how do we welcome people? Every person in our congregation has some, as you said, some.
And making assumptions, because my background is in hearing impairment and deafness, and that's when I first started teaching. And there's an assumption that, oh, if she's deaf, well, she signs. Well, maybe she does, and maybe she doesn't. So it's all about our assumptions and what we think people need, rather than asking people what they need. Laura?
Well, I guess I was struck by the question of what structures are in place, and I guess sometimes it's just having a pastor or someone in the community who's willing to speak up and say, hey, maybe we can include people with disabilities to do this or that, or just you can, and just say, yeah, oh, this person who has a bit of a disability can help out with the bulletin, or they can sing in the choir, or they can read, or whatever.
I am guessing you've had some really good role models for that. And you know what? That is so true. So the young man that I take care of, that some of you may know from work, he goes sometimes to my church. I'm at Ascension Lutheran in Towson, where Dot goes. And he has gone to church with me. Okay, he's not Lutheran. We don't hold it against him. He goes to Trinity Episcopal with his family. Great. But you know what? Different churches and different pastors have different beliefs about communion. So I checked with his mom. She's fine with him taking communion. So I did go to my pastors and said, he's with me. How do you feel about it? And the nicest thing, and I will cry at some point today, when the nicest things that they said to me is, he is a child of God. He is welcome at our table. I was like, yes, thank you. Now I can cry. Because he comes to table. Now we have other issues because he's really not into wine or the wafer, but you know what? We've worked through that. Because of his autism, we now have a routine of what we do. He is greeted at that table like every other person that comes forward for communion. And you know what? That just warms my heart. That warms his mother's heart, his father's heart. You know what? I got to think it warms his heart too, because as soon as communion starts, up he goes and he is out the pew. God has seen him. She sits behind us. He is out the pew and doing. I'm like, you know what? We are all part of this community. Now, do I think that people have figured out he has a disability? Yes. He gets up, he moves, he, as I would call it, because my mother's from Eastern Pennsylvania, he riches around in the seat, just that squirming around thing. But you know what? People, that's a disability that people can see. And like George, people have said to me, what's wrong with him? How about instead of what's wrong with him, good morning, I'm glad you're here today. You know, asking questions. Now, the questions I don't mind are things that are helpful to him. Like, for example, I sing in the choir, so when I'm up front, he is in the pew by himself. Most of the time he's fine, he sits there and waits. One week he was up and he was moving around, and normally I can do what I call the mommy or teacher glare, which is that look, like, what are you doing? And he sits back down. It didn't work. And so a friend of mine started to reach out to say, sit down, and then she stopped. And later she said, I didn't know if that would bother him if I touched him because he doesn't know me. You know what? I'm fine with those kinds of questions because it's about his needs, not about her needs at that point. She was really thinking about, is this going to bother him that somebody else is now coming over? So what she did instead was, okay, sit down. She's coming right back. Sit down. And he finally looked at her and went, and down he went. Now he's nonverbal, so he sat in his pew. I'm fine with those questions, but please don't ask me what's wrong with him, particularly when he's standing next to me. He is a human being, an adult with needs who is there in our community. Let's all be in community together, and that's what we're going to talk about. How do we look at the barriers that are in our church? I came here a couple weeks ago to walk through the building with Pastor Margaret to get a sense of the space, because like many of you have said, there are some barriers that happen in churches. Some of them are completely unintentional barriers. Dot and I were talking about this morning. As churches get added on, many of them were not built in the last 10 years, churches have been added on. So we do funky things. We build little itty-bitty hallways because we have to connect an old building and a new building. We built them before we ever had ADA compliance. We built churches before IDEA was ever even thought of in Congress's mind. So we have all these interesting things that happen in churches that some places we can work around and some places we just have to accept. Not going to work. Let's find another solution. Some of the barriers are the ones that you have talked about. They're attitudinal. Are people with a disability welcome to worship with us? Are there members with apparent disabilities? And are there members with disabilities, like Pastor Sandy said, that aren't quite so obvious? You know, so if you have a learning disability, people may not know that. You do not walk around with a big tattoo on your forehead that says, trouble reading words, trouble with math. George.
At least a third of our congregation is between 70 and 92. The lady that takes me to appointments because of her turned 91 last Sunday. She's beginning to fail. She doesn't have a night, she does during the day. I've seen her run through red lights. She says she'll know when to turn and feed her. We've had 2 or 3 people voluntarily give up driving. And yet these are the people that our church depends on. And these are the people that serve each other.
Wow.
Through, you know, this same lady when her husband died said, I'll take people to medical appointments, and I'll take them to the grocery store, and I'll take them to the hospital. It's a marvelous ministry, but as I say, she's 91. And
That
the
means
others,
he's going to have to end it sometime.
we have some in their 80s that do the same thing. It's just, we probably wouldn't all of the disabled, but we also have people that sit there that their hearing aid doesn't pick up everything, and they worship for a full hour without hearing a word.
Oh,
Yeah. And probably I think, and I'm no spring chicken, I'm 67, but I'm probably the youngest with the most recognizable disability. And our former pastor would not allow me to feel better. Our new pastor, but the older doctor does, because there was no one around to be able to. Well, everything's spread to the bulletin anyway.
right.
So what difference does it make if someone's visiting and may not be able to catch every word? It's really great.
Right.
I love that, thank you. Because you're right, why can't everybody be elected? Now, there are some people who absolutely should not be readers. I'm the first to admit that. They don't like it, they're not really good at it, they knock everything over because they're so nervous. But if this is a gift and we miss some words, okay.
Can I tell one other brief story? We had a lady that was elected for the first time on her 80th birthday. 3 years later, she got up at night, fell down a flight of steps, broke her back in 3 places.
Oh my.
Was in the hospital, was in nursing care. She's now back in church every Sunday, uses the cane, but no longer an electric, which is, it's a miracle that she lived through, the ordeal that she lived through.
Some of the things you brought up, I love, and one is about the aging. We all think as people age, you're right, it's not a disability, but it's something that we think, and it's accepting. You know, we have people who are communion assistants who need help getting up and down the steps because it's hard to get up and down the steps carrying 2 chalices of liquid, sometimes in a choir robe that you're really praying that you don't step on your way down and pitch yourself forward into the pastor, who would really appreciate that. But we have people that everybody just jumps up to go over, take the chalices so he can step down, and then we hand it back to him. We don't think anything of that. So why would we think something different of somebody who's using crutches or a wheelchair or a walker about them needing help to get up and down the steps so they can do the same job? So is that an attitudinal barrier? I think it is. Are we given the opportunity to serve as everybody else in the congregation is given that opportunity to serve? Are we given positions of leadership? You know, we can be run committees and be the pastor and do all these other great things in our congregation regardless of a disability.
Thank God we can do that now. That's another I had a young seminarian who was not even graduate. And let me quote what he told me. He said, most people outside the church think of the church as a bunch of intellectual criminals. If you ever become a pastor, you will do the worst damage to the church of God, Jesus Christ, that anyone can ever do. And that hurts. Mm-hmm. But I've been kind of person that people are very honest with. Sometimes don't quite what they need to be.
Some of the attitudinal changes are things that have been happening over time. We've got 2 female pastors in the room right now who at one point, the worst thing that ever would have happened to the church is if we let women become pastors. Oh. It'll be the downfall. Wow, look at this. We have 2 women in the room right now. 3, oh, I'm sorry, 3. And a new bishop. That was amazing to see. A new bishop for all of ELCA. So, wow, what an amazing event. That it hasn't been the downfall of the church. In fact, the church is stronger for it. So let's start thinking about how we can do this, how we can accept everybody. Disability, no disability, whatever is going on. We need to look at communication barriers. Are the services presented visually and verbally and musically, dramatically? Are there large print? Are Braille materials available? Now, some of the things that have changed is we really need to start looking at it, and it is extremely difficult to Braille every single thing we have. But you know what? We can start making things available. We can make sign language interpretation available. Doesn't mean we always have somebody standing there interpreting, but we can make it available for people. We can do some real-time closed captioning. We can really put a lot of things in place. We make sure there's adequate lighting. I'm sorry, church lighting is probably some of the worst lighting.
Totally true.
I play handbells. I'm the first to tell you. I'm standing here leaning over the paper trying to read the notes because church lighting is beautiful if you're having a wedding. It's not beautiful if you're trying to read something. So now think about anybody with a visual impairment of any kind who's now trying to look at that itty bitty print on a page. And how do we do that? Do we have to make everything large print? No. We can have magnifiers available. And that's a lot easier. And then, again, do we have an amplifying system available that works? Okay. Oh, ADA. ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. This is not new, but there was just some new regulations in 2010. Little caveat. Everything I'm going to share here, churches are exempt, except when are you not exempt as a church?
If you build after a certain date.
No, but that's almost everything else. If you have anything that is federally funded located in your building, you are not exempt for that portion of the building. So if you're running a daycare, if you're running Head Start, in some cases AA meetings, NA meetings, if they get funding for it, So those portions of the building would definitely need to be ADA compliant. Many churches do not run that level of support, so they are not under the ADA requirements. But it does not mean that it's not good practice to at least start including these things. John?
And it's just those sections that are...
Yeah. Here are the regs. These are the 2010. They're simple read. 2010 ADA standards for accessible design. It's quite the read.
A lot of pages.
Yeah, it's a lot of pages, and if you have trouble sleeping, it'll take care of that. Yeah. So the churches are really exempt at this point unless they have those portions. And my understanding is that it is those sections of the building. So that part of the building would have to be ADA compliant because otherwise it's a retrofit of every single thing. Now, it's interesting that when we get to the bathrooms, you have to have one accessible bathroom. Everybody know where the accessible bathroom is here?
Okay.
Right there, yeah. If you've been down this hallway, you have seen the inaccessible bathroom. And for the doorway, inaccessible from anybody over a size 8. Because they're a little door.
Yeah.
But like every other place, you know, we've added on, we've built, we've done stuff for churches, and we got kind of creative. All right, so outside curb cuts. Not just for people in a wheelchair. People with strollers love them. If you're me and always hauling your life with you in a bag, love that. Rolling carts, go right up and down to haul it over a curb. Rails have to be 36 inch, get this right, 36 inches wide, extending 1 foot for length of rise. That's your ramp.
Wow.
If you've been to Ascension, the ramp is the wrong angle. Because it was built before ADA, right before. So we have to fix that at some point. At least I said we would fix that. Handrails on both sides of the ramp. Stairs with handrails on both sides, 32 inches again. A range that people can reach. Slightly raised abrasive strips at the top steps. Why? Because if I have a visual disability, I need to know where the steps stop. Or if you're klutz, I need to know where the steps stop. Pathways at least 48 inches wide with a slope of no more than 5%. Clear width of 36 inches. What does that mean? You can have, because pathways change, you can have them, it's supposed to be 48 inches, but you can go down to 36 for a certain amount of length as long as there's the correct ratio in there and the exact numbers are in the rules. There has to be a level resting place around doors. Why? Because if I'm in a wheelchair, pushing a stroller, carrying my rolling cart, I really don't want to be on a ramp when I'm trying to open the door and everything that I'm pushing or pulling is now rolling down the ramp. And then marked accessible parking.
Gretchen, I have a question. If I were in a church and I'd say, well, of course we want to be accessible, but we don't have the money to make all those, how would you answer that question, or how would you address those concerns about people who are worried about the financial implications?
Really good question. One, I think we need to make a list of what's the most important. What do we need to start with? So for a lot of places, it's really starting with the sanctuary space. Let's start there. How do we get into that part of the building? And then start seeing if we can raise the money, because one of the things that has happened, and George brought this up, we are an aging population in churches. Chances are that many of us are going to need some of the accessibility features that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So it kind of taps into my own need, and it seems that people, oh, that could happen to me, or suddenly more willing to do something about it. There's also grants out there. I know that we've considered looking at some grant funding for some things to get, like one of my personal pet peeves is the front door, which is really heavy and does not have an electronic door opener on it. I really think we need to have one. And it needs to be, electronic door openers cannot be next to the door that's opening, because then it swings open and hits the person in the face who was using the switch plate. So it needs to be 5 feet back. Learned that in a building I used to work at in New Jersey. Knocked you right into the bushes. And it was a school for individuals with disabilities, which is my favorite part.
Oh my.
Okay, doorways 32 inches wide. Why? Because a wheelchair, standard wheelchair can go through that. Doors have to be opened by exerting 5 pounds of pressure or less, but this does not include fire doors. Why 5 pounds? Because again, if you have a physical disability, you need to be able to push that door. Electronic doors, and then lever handles or push bars. Why? Because if you have mobility issues, you may not be able to grasp the doorknob and turn, but I can push down. Think of everybody who's trying to get in the door carrying your groceries. It's a lot harder to get in your front door if you have to turn the knob than if you just have to lean on the handle and the door swings open.
I think some of your fast food restaurants that works out here last time.
Sorry, I can't hear everything you're saying.
Some of your fast food restaurants, the doors are locked, how they're locked.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's a fire door, it can be more than 5 pounds, but many of them will have accessibility features on at least one door. I would love all doors, but usually one door. Now, here's my problem with handicap accessible entrances. How do you know where they are?
When you get there.
When you get there and you're circling the building. All right, what do you do when it's raining?
You get wet.
You get wet. A school that I used to work in Baltimore City that I will not name. They're not in this building anymore. The handicap accessible entrance was in the back, in the basement, through the boiler room.
Oh,
Nice.
So, now, tell you about the neighborhood. We were Charles Village-ish. Charles Village was being generous. We were the southernmost tip, kind of touching Charles Village. The year before I got there had been a murder on the corner. On Tuesday nights when the building was open late for speech services, they had a off-duty police officer patrolling our parking lot, which was like this big. Okay, I used to get in trouble on a regular basis because if I forgot my lunch or didn't like my lunch, I would run through the alley to Charles Street to the restaurants that were there to get my lunch and then run back. Our head custodian used to yell at me on a regular basis about being out there by myself, running through the alley about it's not safe, Gretchen, it's not safe, you need to be safe. Okay, so you're telling me it's not safe for me, the physically fit 26-year-old, to be running through this alley, so now I'm going to tell a mom with a young child in a wheelchair who's also bringing a screaming toddler with her for speech services that she has to go through the alley and come in this door and wait, by the way, wait for you to unlock it because it's on a buzzer.
Oh, wow.
And it's not safe for me to run through the alley to get lunch. They're not in that building anymore. They're in a really accessible building. Okay, worship space. Is there space for extra legroom? I love this place, by the way. Love this extra room up front for your legs. There are wheelchair cuts. Think about what that looks like for people coming into your worship space. Is the choir area accessible? If it's not, what are we going to do if we have a choir member who needs accessibility features? If you want to make me nuts, tell me we don't do it that way here. You know what? Maybe we need to start thinking about how we are going to do it that way. How do we change things? Is there adequate lighting? Are there book stands or lapboards to put materials? Because again, it's hard to balance all of those things. And then, do we have microphones that work and that people can get to? I was lining up in the lectern to get set up today with the projector. I love the footstool. Thank you. I don't know if that's there for accessibility features or just for us short people. But like I could reach and I would have to like peer up over the top of it. Okay, bathrooms and water fountains. At least one accessible bathroom. Every single bathroom in your building does not have to be accessible. 60 by 56-inch toilet stall with a 32-inch door. Again, so I can get in and out. Grab bars behind the toilet and next to the toilet. Why? Because if you need to transfer yourself to the toilet, you can do it. If you have someone else who is helping you, they have a place to balance and grab onto. Because you know what? We need support as well. Sink 34 inches from floor to the edge of the counter or the sink. Lever-type waters, faucet controls, and then a water fountain with a spout outlet 38 inches from the ground. That's for adults. Lower for kids. Many churches already do that because many of us have kids in our programs, and we've already done the high-low water fountain. But it's the spout width, not the water fountain itself. Elevator or lift chair to ensure access to sanctuary and all major program areas. Controls placed at 54 inches or less from the elevator floor, again for accessibility. Braille plaques and a handrail on at least one side. Again, 32 inches. That's accessibility height for adults. Okay. So how can we be the welcome place? Share your wisdom. Everybody in this room has wisdom and knowledge and understanding of disabilities, either because you live with a disability, for yourself, or with somebody you love. You've worked with somebody with a disability, so share your knowledge, share your experience. In some places, people don't want to talk because they think no one else will understand, or they don't want to share information about themselves. I am all for that. We need to keep confidentiality. I don't want anybody walking up going, "Do you have a disability?" But I do want people to come in and say, "Hey, I need to tell you this. My child has autism. He might be moving around in the seat." Forms friendship circles so people can get to know one another. Include individuals with disabilities in your planning for worship, and then again, keep confidences from what people tell you. Churches are really good at that and really bad at that. Some things we keep quiet, and other things we share with everybody. Friendship and inclusion. Include everyone in all church and social activities. Ask parents what they hope for. Parents come to us and they want to enroll their child in Sunday school classes. Great. Teachers are scared sometimes because I don't know what I'm expected to do for a child who has a very apparent disability, or they're wondering why things aren't going well because it's not a disability that's really apparent. So you know what? As a parent, share that information. As the person with a disability, share that yourself, what you want them to do for you to help you be more comfortable in that space. No teasing of any kind. Insults, teasing, done. This is the welcome place. We need to make that rule for everybody. And then help teachers ask parents and find a way to ask with respect. To just say, what can I do to make this a good experience for all of us? Be creative and try new ideas. Talk to parents. I had this great idea about what we're going to do on Sunday. Most parents are very welcoming. Seek inspiration, novel ideas. Be reflective. Think about what's worked well and what hasn't. And then support the individual and support the family. Sometimes people just want somebody to talk to. Laura.
I was actually thinking about that because I have a brother who does not get along with any of his sisters, and he was a jerk to the twins who have autism.
That's a brother issue.
Yeah, I was going to say, my brother just left my house this morning, and I think we said 10 words last night. So the jerk thing doesn't go away, so just know that. Accept it and move on. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it is, people have different expectations. My expectation for the young man is that when you are in church, we are in church. So my expectations for him are the same as they would be for any children of my own that I have. We sit for the service, we follow the service, the steps of the service, we are up or down, we pray, we go through the whole thing. You do not swirl around and rush around in the seat, you sit. I don't care if your mind is wandering off, because I have to admit, don't record this part, but I have to admit I've planned my grocery list some days during the sermon, Oh, are they finishing? Oh, okay. We've all done it. But my expectations are very clear for him. He knows my expectations. He also has expectations for me. That I'm going to cue him at certain points during the service, if necessary, that we're going to be together. There's a Burger King run after church. There's just certain expectations that are just very clear. Okay, so think about person first language. What is person first language? Person first is identifying the person. An individual with a visual disability, not the blind person. The autistic person, the wheelchair-bound person. Think about the individual. When we go back to the beginning, the words that I came up with, not one of them were about a disability any of us might have. They were all about the gifts we have, and that's what I want us all to read about. What's amazing about each other. Use access symbols and announcement advertisements, keywords, pictures that alert us to things that are important. And then provide information about how to request accommodations. Simple thing to put on a bulletin. If you need an accommodation, please contact the church office. Here's the phone number, here's the email. And we can accommodate as appropriate. Now, obviously, we can't do everything every day, but you know what? If I know that Dot's coming and she needs a sign language interpreter, I can make those arrangements now for next Sunday. I can't make it Sunday morning at 5:11 when she walks in the door and says, so, can I have an interpreter? And I'm going, oh, I wonder if Gretchen's available. I'm not interpreter level anymore. I can fake it and I can get away with it, but she's not going to be happy if she needs a true interpreter. But I can make those arrangements if I know every Sunday she's coming. Okay. Personally invite people to join. Pastor Sandy had a great story. We were talking this summer. George had a story. People inviting us in to do this. Come and read. Come and be an usher. Would you like to? Because sometimes people think they can't do it. Joseph. All right. I love it when people agree with me. Materials available in multiple formats. Large print, small print, electronic. We are moving to an electronic age. Most of us read from a computer, an e-book, a regular book. We have multiple ways that we read. We listen to things on tape. That's all still reading and accessing text. Use amplification systems. Provide a listening device. Provide interpreters as requested. And when new members join, what a great time to ask what accommodations would enhance their worship. Make them part of our welcome. So what can I do to support you? And then eliminate barriers that keep members from participating and being part of worship and committee meetings and activities. Dot and I were talking about this out earlier, laughing about it. Both of us cannot stand non-productive meetings. So I am too linear sequential to be in a meeting where we just sit and talk. Jim Cobb, one of my co-pastors, said once he thinks the perfect council meeting would be a free-flowing, thought-producing, provoking idea where we brainstorm and discuss and just that, and the meeting would go on for 3 or 4 hours. I looked at him, because I'm on council, and I looked at him and said, you just described my version of hell. And he just started laughing, because I'm like, for him that would be beautiful. For me, I'm gone. I cannot do that. An hour works, an hour and a half. I'm pushing the edge. After 2 hours, we're not productive. Adults, we are not productive after 2 hours. We need to change and do something different. So what do? We make meetings go on forever. We make our meetings happen at night. Okay, that's great, unless you can't drive at night.
Real problem.
Yeah, unless there's no public transportation at night. So does that mean we make all our meetings at 9 in the morning? No, because now everybody who has a job, who works a traditional 8 to 4 can't come. But how do we make arrangements to reduce some of those barriers? George has a great idea. We need people who can provide rides, who can work together to group people together. Maybe we move our meetings. Maybe we don't meet at the church all the time. Maybe we meet in somebody's home where the person who has more mobility issues, it's their house. We go to them. What an open concept idea that we could go to their space, which is already accessible. I don't need the accessibility features, but it helps. We all use accessibility features every single day without even thinking about it. My best thing, though, is to be a friend. And then a welcoming place offers empowerment, not pitting. This is not about pitting anybody. It's about empowering all of us. Offers advocacy, not avoidance. I'm not avoiding the situation. I just want to make it better for everybody. And then offers support, not stigma. So, St. Francis of Assisi, I just love this one. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Sorry for the typo there. Grant that I might not so much seek as to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. I think that's what we're all here for. We're all here to be the most welcoming place we can be. Churches should be the first place we are welcome, not the last place. Thank you.